things to show you guys today. Sorry, that was a little high. Try that again. Hello, everyone. I'm out on my porch today. I'm sorry if it's a little noisy as a result. But I had a lot of trouble falling asleep. And, yeah, she had a little bit of a scream fest. Right at like 3:15 as I was trying to get ready for my video. So, I hope I grabbed everything, but I'm not sure that I did. But we're going to talk today about designing lace, and we can talk a little bit about just kind of designing knitting patterns in general, but we're going to talk about designing lace knitting in particular. And hello Brooke, and hello Cheryl, nice to see you live. So let's get our basic stuff out of the way first. Don't forget that Slow Yarn Crawl is happening right now. Slow Yarn Crawl. So make sure that you have picked up a passport. I think all of the shops still have passports available. If they don't, you can still grab one at slowcrawl.com. And remember, there are 50 patterns from 32 different shops available. All kinds of fun stuff this year. There's easy things, hard things, sweaters, vests, shawls, hats, towels. There's a little something for everybody. And hi Bev, nice to see you too. So if you haven't checked out Slow Crawl, make sure that you go see what it's all about. I am ecstatic to actually have a copy of the 2021 passport so that I can talk about it when I do my videos. Oh, Marshmallow is rolling his little kitty toy over. Well, we might hear him a little bit too. Marshmallow, remember, is the inside kitty. Yes. Anyway, so don't forget about Slow Yarn Crawl going on. We are still doing our year of self-care, so let's talk a little bit about June, because we're almost to the end of June. That was find a spot to relax in the sun. Currently the Pacific Northwest is like baking. So yeah, that's not going so well out there. I'm really sorry. Do not craft in the sun. Please stay in the shade. But basically, I was just saying get outdoors and enjoy some outdoor time. In July, we're going to focus on like Christmas for you. So Christmas in December, but Christmas for you. And I want you to buy or make a special craft-related item that you've been wanting and wrap it up. Make some Christmas treats, and then open your gifts, gifts on July 31st. If you want to do it before then, that's fine. But just treat yourself to something in July, because you deserve it. You make things all year long for others. At least I do. Even if it's not necessarily needlework related, I make jam and jelly and pickles and cookies and cakes and things for other people. So sometimes it's just nice to give yourself a little gift. So throwing that out there. Don't forget though to take your photos and post to social media and tag Black Sheep Fiber Emporium so we know that you're playing along, and I can enter you in our monthly contest. The monthly contest is every month. It's the same thing. Just post what you're working on and tag Black Sheep Fiber Emporium. And it doesn't even have to be specifically related to the theme for the month. Just post what you're working on so we can look at it. I was going to go through my work and project bags and try to finish outstanding projects that I loved but abandoned, and I have made almost no progress on that. I'm working on a pair of socks still, and I'm almost finished. I have to figure out one last thing with my new lace design, my new lace shawl. So that's part of why we're going to talk about lace designing. So I still have to finish that, and that would actually clean out 2 project bags if I finished both of those things. But I haven't done any stitching on my embroidery that I wanted to finish at all, so I should do a little bit of that. But it's also Tour de Fleece right now. I haven't spun anything, anything. So I feel like I should spin a little bit. I know Wednesday is spinning, so that'll help. But yeah, I had a rabbit show over the weekend, and I was tired, and I worked in the garden when I got home, and then it has been raining to beat the band here. And hi Kathy. And then Cheryl, you sit outside and you're spinning for Tour de Fleece. Yeah. So yeah, it's just been raining to beat the band, and I've pretty much been trying to clean the house, clean the rabbit barn, get stuff you know, around and ready to go. So I haven't been crafting nearly as much as I should. Anyway, and yeah, I would send the rain your way, but there's this thing in between. They're called mountains, and they kind of prevent rain from going from my part of the world to your part of the world, Kathy. It's mountains. That's part of why I didn't like Oregon, was the mountains. So just mentioning that. Anyhow, so those are things to look forward to: Slow Yarn Crawl and the Year of Self-Care. So don't forget those. For my July, I already made my hand spun sweater. So I don't exactly know what else I'm going to do in July yet. Something. We're going to do something in July. I'm always doing something. Okay, so let's talk. I actually do have hand spun. So you can use hand spun for lace, absolutely. You can also use commercial things. You do not have to use wool. You don't have to use 100% wool either. This is actually Targhee bamboo and silk. So if you wanted, you could use that. I have like 960 yards. This makes a lot of lace. Most of the time, small lace pieces can be made with like 400 to 500 yards. And yeah, it's, you know, like almost, this is like 950 or 960, 970, I forget. Whatever, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's over 900 yards. Oh, I got a little straw in it there. It's over 900 yards, so there's like a ton here. There's a ton. This will make an enormous shawl if that's what you want to do with it, because this much lace weight goes a long way, and it's only 4 ounces. So I wanted to show you this because I wanted to talk about how much yarn you actually need to make most things. So a lot of times you'll see fingering weight skeins that are like 400 to 450 yards. And everybody says, oh yeah, a skein, uh-oh, there went my hair. A skein will make a pair of socks. Well, kind of. Like, the average pair of socks is going to take a lot less than 1 skein. If you happen to have larger feet, so like if your feet are 10 inches or longer, or you happen to have very wide feet, then you will probably take the entire skein. But most of the time, socks are going to take somewhere around like 275 to 330 yards. So it's usually not a full skein. And that's for me. I make like tall socks. If you're making little shorty socks, you can do it in like 120, 150 yards. And if you have little small feet, it's even less. So it takes a lot less yarn than you really think to make things. And I think a lot of times people overbuy or overestimate because they have been in a situation where they were trying to buy for a project and they didn't buy enough, and so then they panic. But I just wanted to point out that it takes a lot less yarn than you would think. Like this could make an enormous shawl. This would be like a 7-foot by 2-foot shawl. I mean, enormous shawl. And I probably still have yarn left over, because you have to remember, lace, you do it a bigger gauge and you have holes and it opens up. So, you know, just throwing that out there. Oh, you guys are like chitty chatty today. Let's see. You've been spinning for Tour de Fleece, Cheryl and Kathy. Let's see. Oh, why can't I get to the bottom now? There we go. Thanks, Angelus. And yeah, see, Beth makes longer socks. You can totally make longer socks. That is one of the advantages of doing toe up. If you split your cake into 2 balls and you do toe up, is that then you can basically just knit until you run out of yarn, but you end up with really tall socks. And that's not really my thing either. I like basically 9 inches from the base of my heel to the top of my cuff. And my foot is like about 9 inches from the base of my heel to the end of my toes. So that works out really well for me. But I think a lot of times that's a pretty good math idea, is that your socks should be about as tall as they are long-ish. It seems to work really well, at least for Ina's socks too. She doesn't really like them any taller than they are long. You can go shorter. It's harder though as you start to go longer to adjust for calves, because everybody has a slightly different fit to the calf. There's nothing wrong with that. And measuring tapes are your friend. But it's just one of those things to keep in mind as well. Boy, that was a total digression, wasn't it? Okay, so let's talk about designing lace. I actually do every once in a while run a class about all the different things that go into designing a pattern, not the actual pattern design itself, but all of your different considerations. So when I start thinking about designing, like I designed all of the patterns in my book, sometimes it starts with a stitch pattern, like I may find in a stitch dictionary, like heirloom knitting. Sometimes it starts with a yarn, because I just think the yarn is very pretty and it's very fun, and I want to find something that will show off the color and the drape of that yarn to its best advantage. But there's always some little niggling idea that will spark your creativity to design. And no matter what it is, you have a lot of considerations that go into a design. The first of which is, am I making this for myself, or am I making this to sell to others? Is this a free pattern, or is this a paid pattern? What kind of charting software do I have? Am I going to have a chart, or am I only going to have it written? Am I going to have it, only charted and not written? So all of these things are really important to think about. You have to think about the gauge and the drape, and you also have to think about not using your skeins completely, because everyone has slightly different gauge, and you don't want someone to run out of yarn if you're planning to sell the pattern. If it's a free pattern and they run out of yarn and they didn't read your directions, I kind of feel like that's on them. But when it's a paid pattern especially, I try to make sure that I haven't used the entire 400 yards and like I cast off with a 6-inch tail or something. I didn't play yarn chicken. I always try to make sure that I stop before that, because everyone does have slightly different gauge, and I don't want someone to have the issue of they've run out of yarn for a project and now they have to make decisions about either stopping early or they have to buy another skein. So I do try to take that into consideration when I'm designing. As you go to design, I think it's really important that you, because I've done it both ways, that you start with your design idea and you write as much of your pattern as possible, and then you go back and you make adjustments, because Tina has also found that if she writes most of the pattern first and then goes back and makes adjustments, that she's more likely to end up with a finished pattern in a timely manner. Whereas if she doesn't write as she goes, then she gets overwhelmed at the end. She finds it really difficult for her personally to then go back and write the pattern. So that's something that I do and she does as well, is that we write our patterns before we actually do our knitting, that we go through and we look at charts on their own before we even take them to a swatch. And swatching is also a really important thing. As you're designing, you'll find that you rip things out a lot. So your yarn needs to be reasonably strong, or you need to have extra. If you are designing with singles, this is really important. If you are designing with singles, please buy yourself an extra skein. You can do a different color, but same yarn, so that you can try out stitch patterns and see them. However, if you are using highly variegated or very bright and contrasty colorways, it's really important that you test your ideas in those colorways before you start your project, because you may find that what looks gorgeous in a skein doesn't look great in the pattern you've chosen. So, and that happens to me all the time. I start with something and it just didn't, that's really not coming together right. And it's okay. It's okay that it doesn't look good. You rip it out, you try something else, or you save that stitch pattern for a more solid or a semi-tonal instead of the highly variegated yarn that you've chosen. Lace just tends to look best in solid colors or semi-tonal. There are exceptions to that, and I'll show you a few. So I used this green alpaca, and you can see some slight variation in it, but it's a green, and it had a little bit of green and a little bit of brown. It still shows off the lace patterning really well. Most of the time though, you want to stick to solid or semi-solid colors. This beautiful gold silk, it's very slightly variegated, but it's not variegated, so it's semi-tonal. So it's mostly that one shade of gold, but has hints of other gold in it. There's another one. Or you can use color in a very deliberate manner. So in this one, I've actually gone from lightest to darkest and used the color to highlight my patterning. So again, you have to think about the colors that you're using and the yarns that you're using. The fiber content can be very important. The drape can be very important. And it's just one of those things where the more information you can give a person, if they're going to be purchasing your pattern, the more information you can give them, the more successful they will be. So I always try to put things like, I have a little intro paragraph where I talk about my inspiration for the design. I talk about techniques that might be used. I talk about whether I feel like the pattern is meant for novice knitters or intermediate knitters based on the skills that are needed. I tell you the exact yarn that I use. I tell you the name brand. I tell you the yardage. I tell you the fiber content and the color. And I do that because I want you to have a really good base to find a substitute if you need to. Or if you're looking for the exact same one, you can be successful. I also tell you my needles, and I always use both US and metric so that you know what gauge you need to shoot for, because then I give you my gauge in stitches per inch and rows per inch, and I also do it in stitches to 4 inches and stitches to and rows to 4 inches, because that gives you your per centimeter if you want to do the calculations to give you the per centimeter. So I try to give you absolutely as much information as I possibly can. I give you the size that I had. I give you some ideas on how to alter your size if you need it. And then I tell you about notions. So for example, in this one, which is the glitz shawl, I have notions that says at least 225 beads. I use 217 for this shawl, but having extra is always wise. So there's a lot of stuff that I put at the beginning of my patterns because I want people to be successful. I want them to be very successful. It's usually easiest if you are designing a lace shawl, because we'll talk specifically about lace. If you find stitch patterns in your stitch books that you want to use that either have the same number of stitches in a repeat or are divisible by a number of stitches in that repeat. So, you know, if you use one pattern, we'll say pattern 1 is 12 stitches wide and pattern 2 is 8 stitches wide, then you need to find some combination of those two that is divisible by both 12 and 8 so that you can achieve a nice symmetry in your shawl and not have to worry about having extra stitches here and there. And if you are increasing, then you also have to take into account whether you can increase enough stitches in order to get to the stitch count you need to make it repeatable for the next set. So like if you need to increase 12 stitches because it's 12 stitches wide, then you have to fit 12 more stitches in however many rows are in your pattern repeat. So that's also very important. So if there's 12 rows, and remember we have right side and wrong side rows, if we have 12 rows and we're only doing patterning on the right side, then we either need to increase on both sides, so 1 stitch per row both sides, or we need to increase 2 stitches per row on every right side row or every wrong side row. That's not very common, but you could use that, so that you can get your stitch pattern repeat so that you can make a nice flowing pattern. And sometimes I run into issues where I don't have you increase on the last row of a chart repeat because then you would have too many stitches when you repeated the chart the next time. And sometimes I run into issues where I have to have an extra increase, and again, in order to make the numbers work. So that may be, if you find that you have a pattern that's a little bit odd that way, that's probably what happened. Was the designer looked at that and they said, well, you know, I've got 10 rows and 12 stitches and I need 12 more stitches for the next repeat, so I have to throw 2 more stitches in here somewhere. And so in order to get that, you know, increase a couple extra stitches once throughout your pattern. So that's kind of what happens when you're designing, is you start running into issues based on how you want to shape, because shape really changes the overall patterning. A lot of patterns, especially old patterns like this, are really meant for shawls that are either center out built into a square, or and again that could be triangular, or they are meant as rectangular patterns. And there's some really fun shaping that you can do, like that glitch shawl is sort of a semicircle. Where's another semicircle? This one, the Ilwaco, this one's knit side to side. It's also a semicircle. But you have to really adjust your stitch patterns quite a bit in order to make them fit that side to side construction, because that's not how they were originally written. Where's another one that's side to side? Let's see. This one, this is also a side to side, the Water Lily shawl. And this one I took advantage of a gradient, so I could start with the blue at one end and move it into the green at the other end. And it's a super fun one. I need to remake this one in another yarn, because we don't carry this gradient anymore. So I need to find something and remake it, because it was pretty. So maybe I'll try some Ryeberry. I think it was only a 437 yard skein. So yeah, I should remake Water Lilies. It's very pretty. Anyway, so again, you may run into issues where you have to adjust your stitch counts. You may have to have some like dangling stockinette so that you can fix your stitch counts for your pattern design. Anyway, I don't know. Does anybody have questions about that? I'm trying to be vague enough and general enough to help you, and not be so specific that I lock you into a certain way of doing things or a certain design. There's no wrong way to really knit or design a pattern, but there are some best practices, including giving your customers, I suppose I'll call them customers, as much information as possible to be successful with their patterns. So sometimes I struggle, because there's a lot of people who just want to go on YouTube and they want to watch you knit it, and that's not my process. That's not how I do things, because I knit and I rip out, and I knit and I rip out, and I don't want to lead anyone astray. So usually I don't post like how to make it videos. Sometimes I'll put like how to make a stitch videos. I do cast on videos. I talk about increases and decreases, but I don't usually do start to finish videos of like how to knit one of the hats that I have, or how to knit a pair of socks. Although I did go through all the various steps, but I didn't show you how to knit and exactly how I knit a pair of socks, and just like knit the pair of socks and show you as I go along. But there are people that really like that. That's not my method. That's not what I do. I try to give you tools so that you can learn as you go, and I try to teach you small pieces to make you more successful, because I like to do process teaching, where you're learning a process so that you can apply it to other areas. Kind of like what I do with Ina when we're cooking or baking or anything else. It's, what are these pieces? How do they go together? How many do you have? Because I want her to be able to apply all of the lessons that I teach her in the future, and not just learn one method and that's all you ever know for the rest of your life, and you never branch out and learn anything else. I want you to keep stretching and growing, because I like stretching and growing, so I guess I assume everybody else should too. But anyway, what are you guys saying up here? Oh, thank you. Beautiful pictures. Yeah. Yes, Kathy, my book is available on the blacksheepfiberemporium.com website. I have it in print as well as PDF, if you'd rather have a PDF copy. And if you buy a print copy and decide you'd like a PDF later, just take a picture of yourself with the book and send it to me, and I will give you a PDF copy code. Not a problem. So yeah, I love to design. I love the challenge, of design, but sometimes I get burnt out. I think everybody does. And what I end up doing is I spin for a while, I weave for a while, I go tat, and I follow somebody else's patterns so I don't have to think, because there's a lot of thinking that goes into design, and I always feel like when I'm knitting I should be designing. So it's really hard for me to just make something to make something. That's why I like to do knit-alongs with my old patterns, because I've already made it, so I don't have to think quite as hard. That's why I like to make plain stockinette socks, because again, it's something I make over and over and over again. I have a little formula in my head and I can just make them. I don't have to think about it. Because sometimes I just get burnt out on making decisions and thinking when I'm crafting. So, and if that happens to you guys, don't be ashamed of making like a plain ribbed sock or a little ribbed hat or a stockinette sock. It's okay. Totally okay. Sometimes we just need what I think of as the plain vanilla patterns so that we can sort of reset our minds and reset our crafting so that we can move forward. So I'm just, throwing that out there. Video gamers sit and watch YouTube videos of other playing video games. I don't get it. Yeah. I don't really get that either. Like, I want to watch a video that shows me how to do something, not watch a video that shows me somebody making something. Unless it's like one of those time-elapse ones where, you start a video and 3 minutes later they've completely finished something that took them, 12 hours or something. Those I enjoy, like the super time-elapse ones where they run all over. But other than that, I would rather, watch a, like, how to strip paint, or how to, let's see, how to make jam, how to make dilly pickles, how to, whatever. Yeah, I need to make, I have picked a bunch of green beans in the last week. So I either need to make like a big pot of green beans, or I need to blanch some and throw them in the freezer, or I need to make dilly beans. And I think I'm gonna try some dilly beans this year. I usually make just tons of pickles. But there's a recipe in the Ball canning book, and it's water bath canning, so I know I can do it. And I think I want to try making some dilly green beans. And I think my brother might like them, so, and my husband might like them too. But I've just got like a ton of beans this year, which is wonderful, because the last 2 years? I think the last 2 years, I have had like no green beans whatsoever out of my garden. So I'm really excited that I actually have some this year. It's quite nice. I need to take you guys on another walk through the garden. So I'll probably do that. After we do the solar dyeing, we'll probably do another little walk through the garden, because it just exploded with all of the heat and rain that we've had for the last week. My pepper plants are like at the top of the cages now. And I have like great big green tomatoes coming on my tomato plants. So like you can really see that I have a nice productive garden. I have lots of weeds still, don't get me wrong. But, I'm not gonna lie. My house is never completely clean, and my garden is never going to be weed free. That's just not the way that I work, and it's not the way that I am. So if you're coming here for that, I'm so sorry, but you're not gonna see that. Anyway. What else do I need to remind you of? Wednesday we're doing spinning, and we're going to do some 3-ply spinning. I am probably going to let my brain take a break and just do some spinning for spinning's sake this afternoon. Excuse me. I talk so much my mouth dries out. Anyway, so that's on the agenda this week, and the next week we're going to play with solar dyeing, so hopefully Monday and Wednesday, the, weather here will humor me and give me warm enough days to do good solar dyeing. If it doesn't, then I'm going to talk about some of the things that I read on how to like finish your yarn if your solar dyeing doesn't work. So we'll talk about that. Okay. Yeah, some guy driving his truck with a dog howling out the window. I mean, come on, people. Put your dog in a crate for their safety, or one of those harnesses. Just don't let them like howl out the window. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of the plan. Wednesday we're doing spinning. Next week we're doing solar dyeing, both Monday and Wednesday, because then Monday we can do the actual solar dyeing, and then Wednesday I can show you the finished product and we can talk about things that went right and things that went wrong, because there's always things that go wrong. And then the week after that I'll have you back in the garden and we will be sewing. And maybe I can finally get back to that hand embroidery. We'll find out. Either that or we'll start some Chico or something. I don't know yet. Or a quilt. I have a quilt top I need to put together. See, I have all kinds of things in progress all the time. So, anyway, that's kind of on the agenda. I do keep putting things up on the events so you know what's coming up when I do my videos. And remember to subscribe to our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our Instagram channel and our TikTok channel, because I put all of these things up. Sometimes I throw extra videos that you don't see on Facebook, but you might find them on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. So make sure that you subscribe to us so that you are catching all of our content. Tina has been doing some fabulous morning coffee with Tina things. She has a Tunisian crochet along that she and Tony are doing right now, so you can join in with that. Even if you don't do Tunisian crochet, you can just watch her and, you know, listen to her talk and tell you what she's done wrong and what she's doing right in her Tunisian crochet, because it's always fun to hear about other crafts. What else have we got coming up? The IOLI convention, UNCON, is the end of the month for July, so if you are interested in lace at all, you might want to join the International Organization of Lace Inc. so that you can go to all of the talks and participate in the entire week of the conference or the convention. It's a lot of fun. Next year we are going to be in person again, and I think it's in Reno. I'm pretty sure I'm teaching, which is exciting. I've also been invited to teach at the Winter Lace Conference in California, so I will be teaching there. I was talking with Belinda, who is the coordinator, about what classes I'm going to teach. So Friday I'm going to be teaching a beginning Mediterranean knotted lace class. Saturday, Sunday I'm going to be teaching an Estonian lace class. We'll start with the beginning easy stitches and progress into harder ones throughout the weekend and choose a project. And then Monday I will be doing a not just wool for lace knitting sampler class. I was talking about, you know, you don't have to use just wool for your lace. So we'll be exploring linen, cotton, bamboo, tencel, lens, alpaca, anything I can get my hands on. We are going to have a sampler, and we'll be exploring that for 6 hours on that Monday. So I've got 3 different classes planned, and there'll be more info coming out about that about August. But yeah, that should be all kinds of fun. Let's see, what else? Ozark Fiber Fling, if you are in the Midwest in early November and you want to come to the cutest little fiber festival you ever did see, you can join me at the Ozark Fiber Fling in Steelville, Missouri. I'll be there vending and teaching. I think I'm doing beginning, tatting, Mediterranean knotted lace, and color work and steeking. So 3 really fun things to do there again. Anyway, I really love teaching. It's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get back to in-person teaching too. So anyway, all right, I think that's our time today. We've had a lot of fun though. Until next time, do remember to please take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, craftually. Please do a little bit of crafting, you know, every day. I know today it's super stupid hot out in the Pacific Northwest, so if you only do like 2 stitches of knitting or something, that's fine. Or at least look at a knitting magazine or something that you consider like crafty, scrapbooking, sewing, quilting. I don't really care. Just like take your mind off of everything else going on and just look at your crafts and enjoy the crafts for a few minutes. Anyway, that's my public service announcement for crafters today. So, all right, don't forget to post your year of self-care social media posts and tag Black Sheep Fiber Emporium so that I can find it, so that I can pull a name out of the hat for our monthly prizes. I didn't have one last month, and it was very sad for me. So I'm tasking all of my regular people to please tell your friends and family who craft to just post something crafty related and tag Black Sheep Fiber Emporium. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, they all work. We just have to be able to find it, so you got to tag us so that I can find it and put you in the drawing. And don't forget, Slow Crawl is still going on, so you can get out and have a little fun either online in the AC and couch crawl, which I would totally recommend for the Pacific Northwest today, or you can actually get out there and crawl maybe next week when the temperatures drop a little bit. So anyway, all right, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.